Jung arrived at the discovery of complexes through the word association experiment. Here, participants were presented with seemingly neutral words, for example, table, bread, lamp, and more emotionally charged words, for example, war, faithful, blood. Their immediate responses to these words were observed and analyzed for delays, emotional reactions, and physiological changes, such as sudden movements in the body. Through this experimental approach, Jung sought to uncover how unconscious structures influence our reactions to certain stimuli. For instance, if a subject hesitated significantly or responded in an unusual manner to a specific word, Jung interpreted this as a sign of a complex, an emotional undercurrent that the conscious mind might be unaware of or actively avoiding. Consider this analogy. If the psyche is a dark room and the words are beams of light, the way these beams are scattered or absorbed can reveal objects, that is complexes, hidden in the darkness. Some words might pass through unimpeded, like light through clear air, indicating no underlying complex. Other words, however, might hit an object, casting shadows or reflecting oddly, signaling the presence of a complex that distorts or obstructs the mental process. By identifying the complexes that lurk within the personal unconscious, Jung opened up pathways for understanding how these hidden elements influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, shaping our reaction and interaction with the world around us. The term constellation in Jungian psychology refers to a psychologically charged moment when a complex is activated, which in turn influences our consciousness and behavior. Imagine walking into a room that reminds you of a significant event in your past. The room's ambience, its smell, the arrangement of furniture, any of these could serve as a trigger or constellate a complex, leading you to feel a sudden rush of emotion, perhaps terror or sadness out of nowhere. Once we understand the complexes that reside within an individual, their reactions become quite predictable. This is like pushing a button to elicit a specific emotional response from someone. These buttons are essentially complexes that, when activated, provoke a distinct reaction. For example, someone might react strongly to criticism due to a complex around self-worth, stemming from childhood experiences of being undervalued. The activation of a complex can range from mild anxiety to extreme emotional reaction. This can lead to loss of control over one's emotions and actions, often resulting in irrational behavior that might be regretted later. Consider how a seemingly minor comment can sometimes make someone extremely angry or upset, leading them to react in ways that seem disproportionate to the situation. This is a complex being constellated, driving behavior beyond the person's usual control. Possession by a complex varies in intensity, from minor slips of the tongue to significant behavioral changes. The more intense the possession, the more the individual's usual character and behavior are taken over by the complex's influence. Jung conceptualized complexes as possessing their own specific energy, capable of influencing our consciousness and actions when activated. A complex might remain inactive until a particular situation or event triggers it, leading to an eruption of emotions and behaviors driven by the complex's energy. In Jung's view, the ego is one complex among many within the psyche, each possessing its own energy. The ego strives to maintain control, but when a complex is constellated, it can be overwhelmed by the complex's energy, leading to emotional and behavioral discharges that are difficult to contain. So a complex is essentially an emotionally charged image that is incompatible with one's habitual conscious attitude. Jung also viewed complexes as the architects of dreams, crafting the narratives and images we experience during sleep. The process of analysis or therapy aims to bring these complexes into the light of consciousness. By understanding these complexes, identifying their triggers, and learning how to manage them, a person can gain a better control over their emotional responses and behaviors, reducing the complex's power from disrupting their life. Now, dissociation is a process where consciousness is altered or segmented, can occur in mild forms in everyday life, such as daydreaming or zoning out during stressful moment. This can be seen as a protective mechanism, allowing individuals to continue functioning by temporarily disconnecting from emotional distress or trauma. Jung's exploration suggests that being incomplex is a form of dissociation, where an individual might be temporarily possessed by a subpersonality, leading to altered behavior and emotional response. The concept of multiple personality disorder, now known as dissociative identity disorder or DID, represents an extreme form of dissociation, where the personality fragments into distinct identities, each with its own consciousness and in some cases, control over bodily functions. This condition, often resulting from severe trauma, illustrates the psyche's capacity to fragment in order to protect the individual. For example, one subpersonality might bear the pain of traumatic memories, while another remains unaware of these experiences, allowing the person to function day to day without being overwhelmed by emotional distress. In a healthy psyche, the ego acts as the central organizing principle, maintaining a sense of continuity and identity despite the presence of multiple complexes. The ego's strength and the energy allow it to integrate these subpersonalities, ensuring they contribute to the person's overall functioning rather than leading to disarray. Complexes, according to Jung, are often rooted in traumatic experiences. Trauma leaves a significant impact on the psyche, around which a complex forms. This complex then influences future reactions and behaviors, often unconsciously. But prior to the trauma, the archetypal piece exists as an image and a motivating force, but does not have the same disturbing and anxiety-producing qualities of the complex. The trauma creates an emotionally charged memory image that becomes associated with an archetypal image, and together these freeze into a more or less permanent structure. This structure contains a specific amount of energy, and with this, it can tie in other associated images to create a network. Thus, a complex becomes enriched and extended by later experiences of a similar sort. Hence, the nucleus or the core of a complex is twofold. It consists of a specific traumatic memory that is emotionally charged and an archetypal image, which is a universal inherited pattern. This duality ensures that complexes are deeply rooted in both our personal experiences and the collective human psyche. The concept of archetypes introduces the idea that some elements of our complexes are not merely personal, but are shared across humanity, stemming from our collective unconscious. These archetypal elements provide a template for certain universal experiences and reactions, such as the figures of the mother and the father, influencing how individual traumas and experiences are internalized and expressed.